What's up, guys? Welcome back to Off the Field Trade podcast. We hope you're doing well. It's been a while coming for us. We've not gotten a lot of time because of schoolwork. After a couple of weeks, we're here making this video. We hope you all enjoy this. And without wasting a lot of your time, we'll be continuing the series that we have started, where we discuss the most buzzing and the most riveting cricketing events of the week. Without further ado, let's just get into that. At event number 1, we have the inclusion of Chris Morris in the RCB playing 11 after warming the benches for a while and being injured with having a side strain and missing out on quite an important stage for RCB at the very start of the tournament, the first 4 games or so. He was quite an important asset that RCB missed out on, a very important commodity Chris Morris really took care of RCB's fragile death bowling department, as well as he's been Kohli's go-to man in the middle overs. He's been a wicket-taking option, as we saw against the Rajasthan Royals. He picked up 4 wickets and barely gave away any runs. He gave away 26 odd runs, and against the Kolkata Knight Riders as well, he dismissed Russell, if I'm not wrong. And he's doing wonders for the franchise. And for a change, we've seen a lot of players come to RCB, struggle, and then been dropped. And Chris Morris has been on the money right away. He's struck gold right away, and he's doing wonders for the franchise. And there's no reason why he's not one of the most valuable players for them this season. And he's also a very good finisher, as we saw against the Kings 11 Punjab. He struck 26 of 7-8 deliveries, and he nearly got them home. He got them a respectable total of 170 odd at Sharjah. So he's very impressive. I'm really impressed with the addition of Chris Morris, and I'm really liking the look of him as an all-rounder in that squad.
Since Morris has been included, RCB now has 2 foreign fast bowlers in Odana and Morris. And if you see the other teams that are in the top 4, which is MIDC and KKR, they're all playing with 2 foreign frontline seamers, be it Bolt, Patterson, Rabada, Nokia, and now KKR playing Ferguson and Pat Cummins. I think maybe teams are starting to unlock that 2 foreign paces is the way to go on these Dubai surfaces. They can hit the deck hard and actually give you more wicket-taking opportunities. Very surprising actually from Morris from a personal point of view. I wasn't expecting him to go so well. We know he has a great reputation, but obviously he's been hot and cold for Delhi when he played. So actually quite surprising to see him perform so well with both bat and ball.
Maybe a reason for that could be that he's the leader of the pack in this RCB lineup. There's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and we often see some players just thrive in pressure situations. I think Chris Morris is just quintessential of this example, and I think the added responsibility of leading a fragile and a very new and inexperienced bowling lineup has changed his life, and it's done wonders for him as an all-round.
Moving on to the next event, which is the game between Delhi and Chennai, in which Dhawan scored his maiden 100 in his 13-year long career, which was actually quite surprising. He's a great player. We've all seen him score a lot of hundreds for India in the World Cups. And finally, he scored his first T20 century. Dhawan was quite rusty actually in the first few games of the IPL, but in the last few games, he actually stood up. Which is a great positive for Delhi, considering they're missing greatly the absence of Rishabh Pant and Shimron Hetmaya. So he's really stood up for his team. And but one point I would like to make is that a lot of players seem to be getting injured in this IPL. If you see even in that game, Wayne Bravo got injured and he wasn't able to bowl the last over, which actually forced Dhoni to bowl Jadeja. But it's not just in this game, but if you see, a lot of players are just getting injured now. I don't know why, if it's because of the 6-month long break that we had, or if it's the heat in UAE, but it just seems that a lot of players are getting injured. So that is one thing to think about. But Dhawan really played really well, and along with Akshar Patel, they were able to clinch a very close game.
Just going back to Dhawan for a second, I think an analogy that I heard about, and it sums Dhawan up in a nutshell for me, to be honest, because someone said that and we've been reading memes on Instagram as well about this, he's one of those, you can compare him to a backbencher in a school who fails all year long, and then he smashes it when his team needs him the most, and in that analogy, tops the exams, final board exams. We've seen him do it in the Champions Trophy. We've seen him do it in the World Cup, and finally in a run chase where Delhi needed him the most, needed the most experienced As you said, he has a 13-year-long IPL career. The most experienced man in that DC squad steps up when his team needs it the most. So brilliant.
Moving on to the next point, I think we saw another super over, actually two of them. And this is the first time, it's unprecedented. It's the first time we've seen these many super overs in the IPL. I mean, it's hard to understand why it's happening so, but I would relate it to the lack of ability of teams to finish out or close out games. If you look at all the super overs, I think starting from the game where in between Kings 11 and Delhi, I think it was lack of their ability. Kings 11, they have the ability, but they weren't able to close out that game. Even with RCB and MI, RCB easily had the game in their grasp, but to actually take it to the super over was showing that they weren't able to close out that game. And same with SRH against KKR. I think they were 58 after the power play, and then to not chase down 160 and to close out that game was actually quite disappointing from an SRH point of view.
Clearly, you're spot on. As you said, a lot of super overs are going right down to the wire in this IPL. However, although it's terrific entertainment value for the fans, it's obviously a money on the line for the owners, and they don't want games to slip away in that fashion because obviously money is at stake. I think it's been a great test of mental strength and character for a lot of teams. If in those crunch situations, pressure situations where everybody's watching you, the owners are in the stands, they're expecting, they're making faces, the team management's nervous. In those situations, which players stand up, it's a great testimony to your character and your ability to deliver when your team needs you the most. So I think looking at having the T20 World Cup in mind and keeping that in your vision, I think the IPL is a great setup for the national teams to judge a player's character, such as Andrik Nokia. He's been brilliant in all facets of the game, and so has Rabada, all the South Africans really in this IPL. And I think those are bright signs for a lot of national teams from South Africa, India, and others.
And I think the biggest event of the week was the mid-season change in captaincy for the Kolkata Knight Riders. I mean, personally, it's out of my understanding because KKR was actually pretty well placed with 4 wins out of 7. And Dinesh Karthik actually has performed well from a personal point of view. He scored runs and he's not been too bad behind the stumps as well. And actually, more than Dinesh Karthik performing, I think it's the lack of Owen Morgan performing. I think he's been good. He scored a couple of 30s, but he's not been so great that you can just hand him the captaincy. Because if you look, he is a foreign player, and if your foreign players are not performing that well and he is your captain, then it's very hard to change your team dynamics. Then you're stuck with playing a certain foreign player. If you see for the Rajasthan Royals as well, Steve Smith isn't performing well, so even if they for some reason want to drop him, I'm not saying that they should, but if they want to, they might not be able to, because considering that he is the captain.
He seems to be a master of many languages. You've seen him motivate Varun Chakravarti and obviously the other bunch of Indian guys as well. So I don't know how many languages he's learned before coming to the IPL, but he's been brilliant.
So a bit surprising, I think, but no, it is what it is.
But it's dumbfounding for me because obviously mid-season, I'm not a big fan of a mid-season change in captaincy. If it was Owen Morgan, starting off as a captain in the initial stages, it would have made more sense. But obviously, Dinesh Karthik has not done anything wrong as such. But I think it was his call because the team management is rational enough to understand that 4 out of 7 games, you take it any day of the week. And I think it was more of a personal decision, and I think to take some workload and some pressure off of his head so he can focus more on his batting, because we know how talented a batsman he is, and just Kolkata haven't been able to leverage his potential and because of the rejig in batting order and whatnot, it's been a mess for the Kolkata Knight Riders. The inclusion of Bankton mid-season, and it's been a mess, and they're not decisive with their picks yet. So with all that in mind, I think on a personal level, it's a great decision for Dinesh Karthik.
He might be England's captain and he might have won them the World Cup, but in the IPL specifically, he has not performed that well.
Absolutely.
So to actually make him, even if Dinesh Karthik wanted to hand over the captaincy, maybe they could have looked at future options and maybe made an Indian player a captain. I think just making that foreign player is a little. I mean, obviously, this can go up for debate, and but yeah, I think it's a bit.
I've always been a fan of an Indian player being a captain, because I think he adds that local touch and that local essence with handling the youngsters, that uncapped players basically. So in that sense, I think DK was the better option, and obviously he's the World Cup winning captain and all that is okay, but he's not going to be revolutionary as such, right? He's not going to turn the tables immediately. You need that little bit of time. You need to give him right from game 1 to game 14 to make a change as such. You can't just come in game 7 and expect Morgan to change your fortune. So.
And anyway, I'm sure he would be putting his inputs to Dinesh Karthik. When you look at in the field, on those current situations, they're both standing together, be it DK, the captain, or Morgan, the captain. They're both deciding together. So I didn't see the need to actually hand the captaincy to Morgan. Morgan could have captained behind the scenes as well. I mean, so it was a strange decision, but yeah.
The last but not the least, our last event of the week is quite a controversial one. It's quite a polarizing one, and if you're a blind CSK/Dhoni fan, then you better not watch this section of the video, because it might spark a lot of outrage, and you may be fuming. But the fact of the matter is, we are here to speak facts, and just paint the best and most rational picture that we can. And honestly, I don't feel influential players or the superstars of the game should be able to influence or change an umpire's decision simply because of their stature or what they have done for the game. And umpires should be a different entity itself in terms of their decision making, and there should be no bias as such. And as an elite panel umpire, Paul Reiffel, I think he should be understanding enough to realize that an external force, power or influence shouldn't be swaying his decision, because we saw in that game against CSK, I think it was against who? RR or SRH? SRH, right? Yeah. So Paul Reiffel, one of the deliveries bowled by one of the bowlers, I'm not sure who, a wide. However, Dhoni, was at Paul Reiffel immediately, and obviously, considering where CSK lie at this stage in the tournament on the league table, it was quite an important game for them, and you could see that desperation on Dhoni's face. He just wanted his team to do well. He wanted his team to clinch that game. So that desperation should never transition into forcing an umpire to change his decision, because you need to respect an umpire's decision regardless of your stature and your position in the overall scheme of things in the IPL and for Indian cricket itself. It doesn't matter who you are, you got to respect an umpire's decision.
I mean, obviously, in the heat of the moment, he obviously showed his frustration, but I think the umpire is also at fault here. I mean, if he was going to go ahead and the wide, he shouldn't have been influenced by the bowler's reaction or Dhoni's reaction. If he was going to go ahead and give a wide, he should have just given a wide. So I think the umpire is also at fault here.
And I think it's high time. I think it's high time that fans as well as viewers realize that it's not done for Dhoni it's not been once. It's been a couple times now. Dhoni's walked onto the field for that controversial no-ball decision as well. It's high time that as the Indian captain, you have a certain responsibility to guide the way and pave the path for a certain brand of cricket being played, where you're respecting the umpire. And I think if that sort of respect, that interpersonal relationship between the umpire and player needs to be maintained, I think it's the likes of Dhoni, Kohli, Rohit, these experienced Indian superstars that need to pave the way for others to follow. So can't be a legend and not do the right things and not do the morally right things and just get away with it. That's not fair for the game, and it should be universally and quite uniform for all players.
Yeah, and you can't be decisive based on the match situation. We know, I mean, CSK was in a tough spot, but that doesn't mean you, just to win, you're going to do it anyway. I mean, you have to play fair.
So yeah, those were the most riveting and the most hot topics of the week, and we hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please do give this a thumbs up. Do subscribe to our channel for more freshly brewed cricketing content. And yeah, hope you guys liked the video again. See you guys in the next one.
I think I fucked